Well, to get closer to Cleveland, Travis Bazzana technically needed to get farther away. Get it? Because there's Akron, and then there's Columbus, and oh, hell, just start the show. I mean, that's not a new thing, but the fact that Bazana needs to get further away, but every article I read was one step closer to Cleveland, and technically not true. Several steps away from Cleveland, only to then later return.
Yeah, plus then you're going to get construction probably around like 315 and 71, and you're just, that's more than a step. Like, it's going to take a while.
Yeah. But the good news is the journey is on the way, even though it might be delayed, and it was delayed for Travis Bazzana, and he's part of our plans today, but is he part of the Guardians' plans later this year? I'm already seeing it on the X. People are very anxious on the Twitters, thinking that Travis Bazzana might be appearing in Cleveland later this year.
What would have to happen? Paint the scenario for me.
Well, I think he's got a rake. It has nothing to do with the fall coming up. I mean, he has to hit. And I think if he does that, then this gets a lot more interesting. And then also, the guys playing second base have to struggle. I think you have to not have an answer against right-handed pitching at least. But then would they call him up anyways just to get his feet wet in September? Could that be a thing so that he's better prepared for 2026?
I know that in Cleveland we are searching for, all right, what deadline needs to pass, Super 2, gain an extra year of service time. But they have done that, right? Bo Naylor, remember, came up for the last week of the season in 2022. So it wouldn't be unprecedented. And plus, then you just push a start date back next year and you regain that control. I don't know. I'm having a tough time seeing it. I might feel differently if there were still 40-man rosters in September. Remember those days?
Oh, I loved him.
And
everyone hated him, and I loved him.
No pitching restrictions. You could just face one batter and leave. So you'd have a pitching staff of 20, and you would just alternate every batter, and games would take 5 hours.
I just loved seeing the clubhouse crew sweating, trying to figure out where they were going to put everybody in September. The locker rooms, you got guys sharing lockers. I mean, it was fun seeing that.
That would be an actual reason to clear out. When the Guardians cleared out Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz's lockers a week and a half ago.
Oh, no.
And Stephen Vogt claimed it was because, well, we didn't know if we were going to need this space with the trade deadline coming up.
Of course. Oh, yeah. Yeah,
because we might have traded for 4 players and expanded our roster to 30, and we needed the space.
The coming home to your significant other, throwing your stuff out on the front lawn, going, I didn't know if I needed the space at some point. I didn't know. I just figured I'd throw that out on the front lawn. Don't think that's exactly a good thing.
But if and I don't know if we've talked about this yet on the show, but I mean,
who we are, what we do.
Sure, let's do that first.
I'm TJ, that's Zach, Selby's Guidecast. Continue.
They cleared out those lockers because this was like enough of the distractions, enough of the noise, and this has nothing to do with Travis Bazzana. I love how we just never know where we're going with this show.
Remember all that prep we did 5 minutes ago? Stupid.
It was, I don't want to say galvanizing, but I think there was a little bit of internal, the guys we have in this clubhouse are the guys we're going to have down the stretch, and let's focus on that, and let's push forward and forget about everything that's happened. I mean, they've been through a lot, right? And that happened 3 days before the trade deadline, and everyone's wondering, is Kwan going to get traded? Bieber, what is this? Is Jose going to be pissed? Like, what are we doing here? And so, not surprising that you come back on August 1st and those 2 guys' lockers are cleared out. Ortiz's locker had not been cleared out for the first 4 weeks of his paid leave. So, just think about that.
I mean, if Brett Meyer's guitar could sit in that clubhouse for almost the entire year, and that could survive collecting dust.
Point is, They did not need the space. They might have needed the space if this happened on August 31st and you had September 1st roster expansion in the old days and you could add 15 players to your roster. Because you're right. They used to have to, back in the day at the old place, they would put people upstairs. Jim Thome had a locker upstairs with his number 59, and that's not the case anymore. And now they have a fancy new clubhouse, and you only get 2 spots in September. So, back to your question. Will one of those be Bazana? Probably not. Right?
No, come on. Come on. Leave it open. Leave the door open. Let people dream.
You're
That's
actually
what this season
calling up.
is starting to feel like. Just let them dream. Who cares if it's reality?
You're calling up one position player. And, it's a valid question of like, okay, well, is there a more enticing option? If Brito and DeLauder were healthy, yes. Do you want to see Jhonkensy Noel again? Jonathan Rodriguez?
I mean, you're making the point. Do they need him when you've got this juggernaut offense? When you've won all these games? I mean, get rid of Ortiz, get rid of Clase. You don't need these guys. You're better without them. At least that's what the record would suggest. Since that losing streak that had us all ripping our hair out and making us delete shows that never existed. I don't know what you're talking about. We always believed in this team, and you can shut up about it.
Wait. No. Because I would say go back and listen. Point out what we were wrong about, though. Well, don't go back and listen. But the points still stand. I mean, I give them so much credit. 3rd in the league in runs scored over the last 5 weeks. But I pointed this out on our show the other day. You look at their slash line in those 5 weeks, it's not incredible. They're like a tick above league average. So they've done a better job of getting timely hitting, but that's not the most sustainable thing in the world. This is still a lineup that's trotting out like Gabriel Arias or Bo Naylor in the 5th spot. Like that's like what we have said about struggling to develop hitters and making the wrong moves, whether it's trades or free agents or whatever. And like all of that still stands. Just because they're 61-56 now doesn't mean that they couldn't possibly be better than that.
No, I'm taking this medicine. It tastes delicious. I even said it. I said I want to be wrong. I want to be made to look like an idiot. Make me look dumb. And you know what? All it takes for you to be a genius is to go win the title. You go do that, you'll be a genius.
But I just think there are still lessons to be learned from how this season has played out. And it's great that they're back in this and that they have a realistic shot to go into the final 2 weeks of the season where they've got 6 games against the Tigers, and those games matter, and there's a division on the line, and that seems really, really fun, right? That's awesome. There are also major flaws with this team, and some of them are out of their control with Ortiz and Clase. Like those are 2 critical blows to your pitching staff, a pitching staff that otherwise is building momentum and, again, really exciting and for the future, too. I know how the owner thinks in some ways, some capacities, and just don't let this fool you into thinking, oh, everything's fine. See, it was just a little rough patch, and everything's great.
Yeah, I know. I hate the dose of reality that you're delivering this morning.
Anyway, Bazana, if not him, then whom?
Well, I think he might still be part of what is important for the rest of the year, and if not, at least coming up to Cleveland and having success. Certainly his continued development at AAA, building on what he had really put forward since coming back from injury and rehabbing and looking more like the top prospect in the system. Still not there yet. Would love to see some more power consistently, maybe a little bit higher average. In the minor leagues, at least, I'm not as concerned about it. Drawing the walks, getting on base, all that stuff is great. But you want to see him continue. It's very important for the future of this franchise, certainly when you spent the number 1 overall pick on him. But even if it's not Bazana, there are going to be some important members for this club down the stretch, and it was your idea. I like it. Let's do the top 5 most important players the rest of the way in 2025.
Jose Ramirez? Does he count?
Okay.
That's too easy.
All right. Yes, we all acknowledge Jose is extremely important. Let's say outside of Jose Ramirez, let's decide the 5 most important players. If you would like to play along at home, There's a comment section down there on Spotify. There's a comment section somewhere. I'm sure you can drop us a comment, get in the Discord, find us. Let us know your top 5.
So I will start with a little riddle. Entering Sunday, and I don't want to include...
Horse's name is Friday.
I don't want to include Sunday's game in this little riddle because it skews everything. Because Slade Ciccone just didn't have it. The previous 5 weeks, and that means starting with the end of the 10-game skid, when they're 21-8, one of the best teams in baseball, juggernaut on offense, and the pitching staff, right? They rank second in innings per start, behind only the Phillies in that span. They rank 4th in ERA. And if you knew these facts and figures, you would say, I know one guy who's contributing to that. Gotta be the opening day starter adjacent. Chipotle's number 1 fan. The guy with the contract extension. Tanner Bibee. He surely has delivered start after start to help fuel that, right? Right? Bueller? Not really. And so, point would be, he seems pretty important down the stretch because now I'm thinking, imagine if he was great. Imagine if he was his normal self. The stuff's still, like, it's there. I don't think he's far off. But you can see the frustration, right? He's never been one to conceal his emotions on the mound. And I just think about the role they can get on, because obviously they've been on a roll, but now, doesn't that just go up a notch? A new tier if he's pitching the way he can pitch?
Certainly. And I'm sure to him personally, there's a desire to show that the extension that he got is worthwhile, that there should be no regret on that end. And I'm still not feeling any sort of regret on that end. Even if if he doesn't even get to being a front of the rotation starter, if he's just a very solid mid-rotation guy, this contract you're still getting everything you want out of the contract.
Alex Cobb got $15 million this year.
Right. The thing is, he personally, I know, and we all have bigger aspirations for what he is going to become. Mid-rotation guy is not exactly what we had in mind. And you're right, the stuff is pretty much on par. I was looking at the Stuff Plus numbers, 103 the year before, 103 the year before, 102. I mean, it's been right there. What has been changing, the Location Plus is not as good. So going to be more prone to giving up some hard contact when you miss your spots or you get behind in the count more often than you'd like. I have seen also some call into question some of the pitch choices in what he's throwing. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's something to dig at there. I still, at the end of the day, believe that he's going to be a very good starting pitcher. He's just going through it more times than not right now. And you're right. In terms of who is important, I don't want to spoil who else could be coming up on the list. But in addition to the guys that have already been stepping up and playing well, getting more of that front of the rotation guy, and not even necessarily taking a step forward from where he's been, but give me that guy that had a 3.47 ERA last year the rest of the way. Goes a long way. Now, looking even at some of the expected numbers, that would suggest there's probably some bad luck at play. Like the expected ERA in his career, 3.69, 3.75, 3.72. I mean, you look below the surface, there's probably reason to believe that some of this will even out just as he pitches more. But there are clearly some things that he could do himself to get this back to the direction he wants to be going here.
He had an ERA pushing 5 through his first 8 starts last season, and that's 8 starts. Like this has been longer, but also like his ERA was in the 3s until through the end of June. And then last year, we talked so much last season about how, he was making that start against, I think, the Twins, and Stephen Vogt came out and said, strike this guy. Wasn't it Carlos Santana? strike him out, and
not just
Bibee
him.
did. And it was just he gained trust. Vogt gained trust with Bibee. Bibee gained confidence through it, and he didn't look back. And like the rest of his year was more reminiscent of his rookie season. So I think guys just go through this. I think it's so easy to forget he's 26. It's his third big league season, and he hasn't really had hurdles to conquer. So I it's since the beginning of July, 7 starts, 6.44 ERA, but like he's still striking out one guy per inning. The walks are a little high, but nothing alarming at all. He's just getting hit more. And it's the home runs. He's allowed 22 homers this season. Guess how many he allowed all of last year? 22. So to me it's nothing that's scary. It's nothing that's, oh man, this might just be who he is. There's no fixing this. Like it seems like it's just a tweak in pitch mix, or just somehow like getting to certain pitches and certain counts, and that stuff can be streaky or it can be fluky. But the bottom line here is it's more just, it's great that they've accomplished all this over the last 5 weeks, and the pitching staff has really rounded into form. And it's just insane that they've done it without him, basically. Now imagine if he pitches like he can pitch. That's when you start thinking, maybe they can snag a playoff spot.
Yeah, I'm excited still because I think there's a better version of himself. And as you noted with the home runs, those things can come and go. That can be part of the flukiness that'll make your numbers inflate, because one that flies out to the warning track on one start prevents 2 or 3 runs from scoring. That can greatly impact your end of day box score. And just looking at really all the expected numbers, it paints a much better picture than a guy that has a 4.60 ERA. I mean, none of it is screaming, "Hey, this dude looks like an ace," but all of it looks like capable starting pitcher right now. And there are times where it feels like, can he hold a lead right now? If you give him a lot of runs, can he hold a lead? And because he's going through it, the answer is not always a resounding yes. But looking at the statistics, like there's enough here that I'm not panicked that this is now the 4.5 ERA guy. I don't think that's the case. There's a much better pitcher here below the surface, even if he changed nothing.
There was, when the White Sox were coming back against him, they turned a 9-1 deficit into a 9-5 deficit. But when they were mounting that comeback on Friday night, there was a point where he had a pitch, I think on a full count, that looked like a strike. And so the guy draws a walk, the inning continues, and you could tell because he's very self-aware, and he gets very frustrated. And you can see how much it pains him post-game when he doesn't pitch up to his expectations. Like the emotion is raw and it's real, and it lives with him those 4 days between starts too. And you could see it on his face when that happened and he didn't get that call, that he's like, oh my God, here we go again. Why now? Why? How do you miss that call in this moment? And it's just like, it would be easy for someone who is going through it. I think it's just like it's a fine line between confidence and then like just thinking like, oh, here we go again. Like it's always something. So I think he just needs a couple good starts where he avoids that. Like, I don't know, but you're right. It's like he can cruise through 5 and then he's got that lead in the 6th and it's just like kind of all falls apart. And next thing you know, the lead is dicey. He's exiting. Festa's coming in with a couple guys on, and you're standing in the dugout praying.
I would agree that he's an extremely important cat the rest of the way. I'm going to say another starter needs to be added to that list. You need to keep getting this Gavin Williams. Maybe not the guy that takes the no-hitter all the way into the ninth inning, but the guy that looks like he's, in my mind, equal to Bibee, like matching the, no, I'm the ace, no, I'm the ace, no, I'm the ace. He's got to be living in that territory, and I think the rest of the way, not only for the future of this rotation looking good and us feeling good about 2026, but if they have any shot at getting into the postseason and making noise, they need a Gavin Williams that can take the ball in game one. They need that sort of performance the rest of the way, and not the guy that's going to battle pitch counts and walk a ton of guys. And I'm okay with some walks are okay with him because I think he's capable of bailing himself out. And he's big and strong and can go 100 pitches. This is not the case of we get to 85 and this is kind of dicey. I'm comfortable with inflated pitch counts, but he's got to be efficient enough that he's doing what he's been doing lately. And the outings of 4 and 5 walks need to be sort of the outliers here on occasion.
I think the toughest thing about baseball and roster building is aligning your best players on the same timeline. And if you think about the recent history of, I don't want to say co-aces, but the team's top 2 starting pitchers. Let's go back in time a little bit. You had Corey Kluber and Carlos Carrasco. Would you agree that was basically the team's number 1 and 2 for a while? Think about the paths those guys traveled to get there, right? Kluber has a solid rookie season in 2013. I don't think anyone was expecting him to win the Cy Young Award the next year. And Carrasco was like struggling to hold on to a roster spot. 2014, Kluber emerges as this Cy Young winner, this steady force. And that was the summer Carrasco went to the bullpen for a while and then down the stretch looked like a dominant starter. So then you're thinking, oh man, look what they've got. And you go into the next season, those are your 2 guys. And it was a weird year. Like Kluber was getting no run support. Carrasco had a good year. And then 16, they're rolling and Carrasco gets hurt. And we can all play the game of like, imagine if he was healthy and didn't get hit by that Ian Kinsler line drive, right? But it's just aligning that where you get those 2 guys on top of their game at the same time is so hard. And then I think of the next iteration. I think of Shane Bieber and Tristan McKenzie. And Bieber emerges in 2020 as this absolute dominant right-hander. Tristan McKenzie makes his debut, and it's like, ooh, look what they could have next year. And not quite the same. Bieber gets hurt for a little bit. McKenzie goes through some major struggles. Looks better down the stretch. And again, you're thinking, all right, can these guys put it together? And they did. In 2022, those guys were dominant, and they carried them in the playoffs. And it was great, but it was fleeting, right? Both guys get hurt the next year. And we've barely seen them since. So it made me think of Gavin Williams and Tanner Bibee because these guys have been on the same timeline all along. But it's more proof that doesn't guarantee that they're going to stay on the same timeline, right? And you're just hoping they both go through their things and figure it out so that eventually they reach the top of their game around the same time, and it gives you 2 great anchors of your rotation. And you think about Williams always looked the part. He was the guy with the pedigree, the first-round pick, the top prospect, the top 50 overall prospect, and just breezed through the minors. And Bibee was hanging right there with him. Maybe didn't have quite the overpowering stuff, but always had really good numbers in the minors. And we've talked plenty of times on this show about how the organization was just salivating over them and they'd have friendly competition during spring training or whenever. And they both came up around the same time and had really good rookie years in 2023. And you're thinking, all right, here you go. Here's your next 1 and 2. And they've got Bieber and McKenzie still to guide them. And then almost none of that happened. 2024, almost like a lost season for Williams. Bibee was really good and emerged as the ace of the rotation, and he's the guy with the contract now and the opening day start. But this stuff is never linear. There are always speed bumps and setbacks, and so it's crazy to think now Williams is there and he's scratching the surface, and you can see it, and he can feel it, and he's on the verge of finally being that. I say finally, it's been like less than 3 seasons, But he's
First
there.
full season, like just going in the major leagues.
But we've known this was possible, right? And you saw the ingredients there the first time you watched him on a major league mound, and here he is now on the doorstep, where finished this season strong, and we're talking about, all right, can he be an ace next year? Can he be a trendy Cy Young pick next year? And for Bibee, he's been that. Now he's got to get back there. And if these guys can get aligned, and you can get that Bieber-McKenzie magic, that Kluber-Carrasco tandem, it could be special. That can lead you to a playoff spot. It could lead you to a division title. It could lead you to a deep playoff run if you have that 1-2 punch. But they got to get there first. And there's a lot to work out before then. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Looking at Bibee and Williams, this is also a case why this gets so frustrating, I'm sure, for the pitchers involved. For Gavin, we're seeing this excellent run that he's been on. The overall season numbers look sparkling. No one's complaining about his performance right now, other than what we were talking about earlier in the year with his inability to get deep into games. But that's been cleaned up a little bit better. Looking below the surface at Gavin and Bibee, if you looked at nothing but just their quality of contact, their expected ERA, their stuff plus numbers, their location plus numbers, they would all say that Tanner Bibee's actually having a better year. But yet in performance, you sequence it properly, or the mistakes that you make aren't as crippling, the home runs you give up aren't as massive, or just all of the things that go into pitching that complicate this, that make it more than just looking at the spreadsheet and looking at the stuff plus number and saying, well, Bibee's at actually a 103 and Williams is at 102, and the location plus is better for Bibee than it is for Gavin Williams. Doesn't always work out like that. Even the expected ERA for Gavin Williams is worse than it is Tanner Bibee, but it's worked better for him this year, and sometimes we just kind of let the actual performance on the field govern how we feel about guys. Maybe that's not fair. The truth might be Gavin Williams maybe is not pitching as great as he's been here recently, and Bibee's probably not been as bad as it looks right now. But for both of these guys, these are two guys that I'm excited to have leading this rotation. And for Gavin, of course, and we spent a whole show talking about just his development over the last 3 years in our most recent show over here on YouTube. It's just refreshing because we knew it was in there for him. We knew that he was capable of this. And it got frustrating, especially when he first came up and the velocity wasn't great. And this guy, we were looking like, what are the minor league guns lying to us? Are they saying that he's hitting 97 all the time? He comes up here and he's barely hitting 92 or 93. What's the deal here? How much of that is just confidence and not feeling like I got to place it exactly here on the edge. I got to do this or that. I have the confidence I can let my mechanics and my strength just push through this pitch, and I'm going to hit 97, and I'm going to hit my spot, and I'm confident in the results here. And once I do that, once I've let go, whatever happens, happens, but I trust my stuff. And I think we're seeing that with Gavin. For Tanner, I don't know. I think he's probably just battling that own personal self-confidence, and this is me just trying to diagnose it from way over here, and it's probably not working very well. But it's kind of how I would read it from where I'm at.
But I would agree. Those are two of the most important people for the next 6 weeks, because that's if you can count on 40% of your games where you know you're getting 6 innings and there's not as much pressure on the offense to score 5-6 runs, that's just huge, especially when they start playing some tougher teams here. Well, let's go with the leadoff hitter, because they have had this run lately in spite of their 2 All-Stars, which probably isn't the formula to follow the rest of the way. And with Ramirez, I mean, he's been otherworldly until the last week when he went, 2 for 25 on the road trip, but they went 5-1. So if you're going to go 2 for 25 at some point, that's a good time to get it out of the way. But Stephen Kwan has seen the average plummet to 278, the OPS plummet to 729, and there's a lot going on here. I mean, he's been going through it, and I think there are valid questions about how much the wrist is still bothering him. If the injection he got during the All-Star break maybe helped him feel good for a few days after the break when he crushed 3 home runs, but has that worn off, and is he still going through it? You're seeing some batted ball data that doesn't really reflect who he's been as a hitter over his career. I don't know. I don't want to make tons of excuses. I never like to make excuses for guys who aren't going to make excuses for themselves. That's the struggle here. One of the things I wish we had the capability of as humans is to I guess, hey, Freaky Friday 2 is out, right? Like, if you could just switch bodies with another person to understand what they're feeling and dealing with, I think that would be helpful. I don't know. My wrist feels good. It was a little sore after I played golf the other day. That happens when you just fire birdie after birdie, but my wrists feel good, so I don't know what he's dealing with and how it affects his swing. I know that over the All-Star break, at the All-Star game, he told Aaron Boone and Stephen Vogt, if you're looking for power, look elsewhere. I can't really drive the ball right now. That's why he got the injection. He hit 3 home runs in a 3-game span after the All-Star break, but it's been quiet since. Point is, they need him. As great as Daniel Schneemann has been the last couple of weeks, and David Fry's turned it on, and Rocchio's looked so much more confident at the plate, you need your All-Stars to play like All-Stars, and it starts with him.
Just looking at his rolling expected weighted on base average over the last 50 plate appearances, and that's always capturing the latest 50 plate appearances for a guy, so that's the rolling aspect of this. It's just downward trend. It starts up around 400 and it just dips below 200 now for quite some time, going from very red to very blue. He doesn't want to make excuses for himself, but it's one thing when we're guessing maybe something is wrong with this guy, as opposed to we know there's an actual issue. We know he's got an injection for it, and we know this guy is struggling to really drive the ball and hit for any amount of power and looks all out of sorts. This doesn't take a sort of scientist to figure out it is probably bothering him. Is it to the point where it's got to push him off the field? The team hasn't decided that that's the case. Would it be best for him to take a couple of weeks off? I don't know. I can't diagnose that from here. I just know the production here is not good enough. Nothing he wouldn't say himself. And I'm wondering, for a guy that has shifted a little bit of his profile, has been willing to take those inside pitches and really has learned the pitches to drive, I'm wondering, is it possible or how difficult it is to unlearn that skill if you can't tap into that sort of power that you've really felt good about for the last couple of years? This is a guy that has shown us that he can get to double digits. So if that is in your arsenal and your eyes light up when you see the pitch, when you know you can drive it, and for him, I'm thinking, how many pitches has he got that are up in the zone here lately that are inside, and he just pops it up and he looks so pissed off after he swings at it? How much is it just he's been wired to look for pitches that he can drive, and so he's still in the back of his mind wanting to hit those pitches, but right now he's not capable of getting the bat where he needs to and really just driving through the ball. And so it's like, I still want to be the old guy I was, swinging at the pitches that I was and being that guy, but right now my body's not letting me be that. And I'm wondering how much of that is at play for a guy that I can typically hit this pitch and I can typically drive it into the gap or over the fence. And right now all I'm doing is popping it up to center field. This is angering me. Can you unlearn that skill while you don't have that part of your game? Is there something else he can do? Lay off those pitches that are up in the zone, maybe inside pitches that he's really struggling to do anything with? That's easy for me to say sitting here. Well, don't swing at that. Okay, but if that's what's been giving you success for the last 2 years, who am I to tell him he can't swing at those pitches? It's tough.
I have to come clean. I played terrible the other day. It was the worst round of golf.
I was going to let you get away with it, but God.
Worst round I've played in years. There were no birdies. Maybe one. Anyway, he had a game Friday night where he went 0 for 5 with 2 strikeouts, and that's just not him. And you can, it's like with Bibee, it is obvious when you see his reaction after a plate appearance that he's had recently. He's not hiding his emotions either. But I don't know. I mean, last year he had a back issue And remember, he went on the injured list briefly, I think in September, came back and was great, and then was great in the playoffs. So I don't know. Do you need another breather here, or do you just have to gut through it till the end of the season? That's a question above my pay grade. I don't have a medical degree. I don't stay at Holiday Inns, so yeah. I mean, he drew a walk on Sunday. It was his first one in almost 2 weeks. I think that's a sign too that he's just, at some point you start pressing as well, and makes it tougher to get out of it. But bottom line is they need him. Again, like we said with Bibee, crazy the runs they've scored, and not just that, but the production they've had despite a pretty pedestrian team slash line, like good, but nothing crazy. You wouldn't think, hitting 241 as a team over the last month would with like solid but unspectacular power would translate into the third most runs in the league. And then on top of that, they're not getting production from their best table setter.
Desperately need him. And I think someone else they need in this offense is someone we're seeing better signs from for the last little over a month here. But again, it comes in a weird way, and it's Bo Naylor. So I was prepared to look at the statistics since the beginning of this really good stretch, which ended right after the losing streak, and I was prepared to see much better numbers from Bo Naylor because it feels like he's contributing a lot more. And he is. He's a 3% above league average in that stretch, which a 103 WRC plus from catchers from this team. Holy crap. Like, that's amazing. But it's the same sort of thing. It's just been a better version of what he's been overall this year, which is a guy that if he's hitting the ball, it's meaningful, but he's not hitting the ball otherwise. So it's a 200 batting average, but a 103 WRC plus. He's contributing in the slugging department with a 400 slugging percentage. And he's also drawing a ton of walks. He's at like 14% since the beginning of this stretch. So he's been a tough out, and clearly when he makes contact, he's doing damage. I don't know what this profile is. It's just never really screamed to me that this would be his profile. I mean, I figured some walks and some power would be in there, but to an extent where it's below 200 average, but he's still somewhat contributing, it's weird. But when you get at least some level of production from him in that 6-7 spot in the lineup, man, it makes this whole team just feel a lot more complete. I would prefer it be down in like the 7, 8, or 9 spot in a much more complete offense. But right now, given the production they need from right-handed pitching, at least seeing him being an above-average hitter for the last little over a month and showing some better signs of having better at-bats and drawing the walks and just being a guy that's not an automatic out, really crucial for me down the stretch.
He's so weird. I don't even know what to say about him. Let's do this. Ignore the slash line and everything else. Let's look at a few numbers. Because you want to see growth, right? And I think if you ask the average person, hey, has Bo Naylor been better this year? They'd say, no. He's still just a black hole on offense at catcher on this team. But if you look at some key components of this profile, last year, walk rate, 7.5%. This year, 12.7%. So he's gone from a pedestrian walk rate to an extremely good walk rate. And that's a huge jump. That's an awesome adjustment there. So great first sign. Okay, what else you got? Last year, strikeout rate, 31.4%. This year, 25.0. That's awesome. You went from a strikeout rate you really only want to see if you're hitting 35 home runs to pretty common average strikeout rate. Nothing crazy. But another huge step forward. Like those numbers going the directions they're going, that's an awesome sign, right? Okay, good start here. How about the power? Last year, 13 home runs in 354 at-bats. Okay, fine. This year, 11 home runs in 258 at-bats. So there you go. More power. Okay, so he's walking way more. Super high rate. Striking out at a rate that you can absolutely live with. No issues there. hitting at a really good rate of power. Like, okay, everything else must be horrendous. Like, that's the problem. Like, I don't know if it's just he doesn't hit singles. He doesn't.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird. Look at the fact that he's got a 201 batting average on balls in play. 201. How do you not luck into being a little bit better when you also removed some of your strikeout rate? As you said, when that's down over 6 percentage points and you're not having any luck. So you must think, okay, 201 batting average on balls in play, even if that's a flawed statistic, got to be better, right? Got to be better than a 201. How could you be making more contact and have no luck that way? So you go over to the expected batting average, it's 199 in the first percentile. How is it possible that a guy, it's like he either hits the ball over the fence or for a double, or it's just a lazy pop, and there's no in between. There's no little flubber off the bat that falls into the outfield half the time because someone just can't get to it. It's either really meaningful contact or it's a lazy can of corn to the outfield. I can't figure it out. I don't know what I would, as a hitting coach, not that I have any expertise in this area, but I don't even know what I would tell him to do. That's like the barrel percentage is at 67th percentile. It's 11.2. Like, you're making some good contact within here, but your average exit velocity is in the 42nd percentile. It's odd. The power being there. He's raised his ISO over 40 points this year compared to what it was last year. So like the power is like the 11 home runs are earned and the walks are earned. It's like, man, you take this profile and if you hit 17 home runs and you drew walks at a 13% rate, sign me up from the catcher. You don't have to be the guy that hits 280 for me, but if you're contributing at the bottom of the lineup and you're bringing a 320 on base percentage and hitting for some power, God, that to me is, I'm fine with that out of the catcher, but he's just not quite there.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing. If you take this profile and instead of hitting 180 with a 280 on base, you're hitting 210 with a 320 on base, that's a great player. But you're right. Only 20 singles this season. That seems hard to do. But if he can be, what he's done over the last couple of weeks, if he can continue that, improve upon it. I mean, we've been saying this for a couple of years, but I don't know. When do you want to talk about the 2026 catching situation? That's a fascinating topic.
Well, that was another thing I wanted to raise before we left this topic in particular, is not only would it be big just for 2025, but there's another guy now in the minor leagues making his way up that I think
Dom Nunez,
that I think everyone soon will want to be talking about, if they aren't already, and having something settled, more concrete, pushing into 2026, feeling good that I don't need to address that situation at the moment, that we're all perfectly fine with Bo Naylor existing there for a little bit longer at least, would certainly be a lot nicer than where we've been at previously. Which leads us to the final most important player down the stretch. Number 5, Travis Bazzana. Let's hit the music. Let's get out of here. No?
I don't know. Do we know that he would even come up? Where would
John
he play?
Means.
You want to take
John
Roki?
Means, come on down. Just completed his 2-inning, whatever you would call that.
There's some really interesting people to talk about this winter. I'm excited. We don't have to talk about Bradley Zimmer 15 consecutive shows. We can talk about Cooper Ingle and John Means and David Fry and Chase DeLauder and Juan Brito and Travis Bazzana. It's going to be fun. But there's a lot to talk about before
There is. Okay, well, before we figure out who the number 5 is, real quick down the rabbit hole, you know how we love to do the remember some guys thing, and then you just find your way down the rabbit hole on Baseball Reference. So Ross Carver also got promoted in the group of all. You ran through Bazana, you ran through Ingle, Velasquez getting promoted up a level. So this is an exciting time in the organization. We're all going to see something new from these guys that are going up a level. And then there's Ross Carver, and I'm like, Ross Carver, I haven't thought about this man in a long time.
Carlos Vargas, right?
Carlos Vargas, right. So remember that trade, and we were all at that point thinking Vargas was surely coming up and going to seize a bullpen spot. Seemed like he was going to be elevated to that. And then they
had
traded
kept
him.
him on the 40-man roster for a while he was injured.
Right. It felt like they've invested a lot to then just trade him for a guy that was struggling to be a starter. It didn't make a lot of sense, but I trusted the organization. They know pitching. If they're getting rid of a pitcher, bringing in another pitcher, they have to know what they're doing. And then just Ross Carver fell off the map. And this is not here to talk about Ross Carver in particular, though. Surely they're going to find a way to make him a bullpen arm in the future, and they'll be calling him up at some point in 2026. I'm going to bet money on it. But Vargas, I was like, well, what happened to him? I haven't really even thought about him in a while. And then he was terrible with Arizona at a 5.79 ERA. A couple of years ago in 2023 with Arizona. The expected earned run average, by the way, in those 4 2/3 innings, 10.55. It was not a good experience for him. He really struggled at AAA with Arizona when he went over there. So then he's gone to Seattle. I didn't even recognize that he was in the deal for Eugenio Suarez that sent
the first one.
Seattle, Arizona. Yeah, he was in that first trade. And then he's been in Seattle's bullpen for 51 games this year. I didn't even recognize that. 3.74 ERA for him.
Well, what happened to the strikeouts?
Yeah. Well, how do you have a
gas, but he doesn't strike people out?
How do you have a 3.74 ERA and at Fangraphs you're actually worth negative 0.5 WAR because the FIP is at 4.62.
When he pitches in a cavern.
And anyway, I had forgotten about Vargas, and then I didn't even know that he was in Seattle's bullpen. Just not paying attention to Seattle's bullpen this year. And then I go through, and he's traded for Suarez the first time. A lot of connecting the dots
but
here.
Not the second time.
Not the second time. But a lot of connection of dots here just because I saw Ross Carver's name. Anyways,
I'm glad you worked that in.
Is he the 5th most important player? Ross Carver?
Carlos Vargas?
Oh, sure.
Ross Carver? No, I don't think so. I mean, you could put Slade Ciccone here and say all the reasons we talked about with Williams and Bibee. Well, imagine if Ciccone is just realizes all his potential and doesn't struggle for the next 2 months. You could put Joey Cantillo in there. I'll give you a name. How about Eric Sabrowski? He has aced every test so far in 2 years, has he not? The guy's ERA, I think his ERA is like 0.63 in his career. He should retire right now and just live with that on the back of his baseball card forever. But I choose him just because he's the lefty. He's got to continue to do this because they're going to need him like every single game. And he was talking all April and May about, every time he'd come back for a checkup when he was injured, he'd say, look, I'm willing to miss these early months if it means I'm pitching in meaningful games later on and I'm healthy and I'm contributing. That's panned out. I don't know if he thought, well, Tim Herron will be in AAA and Emmanuel Clase will be in a living nightmare and they're going to need me in key spots in the 7th and the 8th innings every night. But if he can keep doing this, that is a critical development for the bullpen. So I think he's awfully important.
I just love his fastball. It's fascinating to me. It's got all the spin in the world. It's like an invisiball. And even though he throws hard. 93.7 is the average fastball velocity, so it's not like he's trying to trick anybody here. But if you're having a fastball that lives around 94, but man, does it look... It must just be really hard to pick up. The vertical movement is not insane or anything, but it's fine. But he can get such good results with the fastball, and some of the Stuff Plus numbers on it are really, really good. Let me find the updated one.
40% whiff rate.
Right.
Yeah.
So the Stuff Plus on the fastball, which it's tough to have a really good Stuff Plus number on the fastball. It's a pitch that a lot of guys are hunting, right? It's a 111. 111 Stuff Plus on the fastball, and this is not a fluke. Well, it's just this year. That was also his major league number last year, 111. That fastball, just something about it. It's got the secret sauce to be at a velocity that's fine, but it plays up, certainly. It could just be some, I don't know if it's the release point that maybe guys struggle to pick it up. I know he gets good extension compared to the rest of the league in the 80th percentile, So maybe just gets on top of hitters a little faster than they're anticipating. Whatever it is, it works for him, and he's a guy that can live with that fastball. And with everyone moving up a spot in that bullpen, you said it. Tim Herron, where's he at? Not in the majors right now. They need that guy to step up and be that left-handed complement at the back end of games, and it didn't take long for Stephen Vogt to say, you're the guy, especially when you have an 0.64 earned run average so far in your first 23 major league games. Pretty good.
So is he the fifth guy? Sticking with Bazana.
But whose side is he on? Yeah, it's tough. I'm looking at that middle infield. Oh, you need some good production from that middle infield. I mean, you're seeing it now when you don't have Kwan and Ramirez, and then you're having guys like Arias and Rocchio step up and have good games to help carry this offense and at least give you enough production to win these games. And one of those guys is probably going to need to be the answer on one side of the infield, right? Given that you do have Brito in the future and you do have Bazana in the future.
Brito's the weird one.
Second base is going to be occupied by someone.
Yeah. Why not Bazana? Why not in September?
It's just tough for me to think that this team is going to have a big finish here without at least one of those two in the middle infield continuing to play well. Well,
so are you saying
like Sabrowski is important, but God, I don't know. I feel like he's important too, but maybe to a lesser extent than those guys.
But you got to pick one. This is a list of 5, not 6.
I know, and we very rarely we usually do our own. It's very rare we come together and have to figure it out.
Leave your suggestion in the comments below here on YouTube or on Spotify or on Podbean or wherever you're listening to us.
I'm gonna say Rocchio. I'm gonna elevate Rocchio ahead of Sabrowski and a little ahead of Arias. Because Arias, I feel like we kind of we understand what he is. I feel like he's a guy that can live around a little below league average with the bat, play really good defense, and I think this is a major league player. I don't know how often, but this is a useful player, even if he's not a guy that you need to be counting on every single day. Brian Rocchio, I think we're still asking, is this a guy that's a contributor for a team for a long time? And I'm still not answering that question yet. And we're seeing, man, when he can play some good defense at second base, how about the play where he was heady enough to pick up the ball that Arias couldn't handle and throw the guy out at first base? What an incredible play that was. And just delivering some big hits in the bottom of the lineup. It's really important. This is a guy that in the postseason was one of their best hitters.
The devil's advocate argument I'd have for you would be that we know Arias has such extreme peaks and valleys that wouldn't it be critical for this team if the next 6 weeks are a peak and not a valley?
Sure. And you can make the argument that a guy like that, you get the most out of that player playing them every single day because you want to make sure you catch the peak. You don't want to interrupt the peak. So you need the overall length of his production to get the full balance of his production.
I think in conclusion, this team needs good performances from a lot of people. Shocker. I'm glad we did this exercise to arrive
crazy
at that.
Here. Let's wrap things up by looking at some of these numbers since the end of the losing streak. I wanted to ask you, without really looking at them individually, who do you think is being most meaningful to this club? Position player side, who do you think has been the most impactful, most valuable player since July 7th?
By WAR?
By WAR, over at Fangraphs.
Jose Ramirez.
Yeah, don't overthink it. It's been Jose. 1.7 wins above replacement. Who do you think
good
is
for your WAR draft team?
Yeah. Yes. There's also quite a few negatives that I'm going to have to overcome. Looking at you, Lane Thomas, John Kensey Noel. I think I drafted Noel. Thank God Brian Rocchio's been back. All right.
Who's second?
Second on this list.
I'm going to go with one of those middle infielders.
Incorrect.
No?
Incorrect.
Well, Arias was hurt. Okay, how about Bo Naylor?
Incorrect. This guy had a good weekend.
Kyle Manzardo? No.
Kyle Manzardo, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, .9 wins above replacement.
Wow.
So in this stretch since July 7th, hitting
But the nerds hate DHs.
333 with a 438. Well, if you're this good, if you have a 190 WRC plus, you're piling up WAR even if you're barely playing the field. 333, 438 on base percentage, 606 slug. A 190 WRC plus, 5 home runs in this stretch. Been very, very good. Need him in the lineup more. Yeah, all that
I have
stuff.
a trivia question for you. Manzardo's at 20 home runs. Do we agree he'll probably get to at least 25?
I feel good about that, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that would be 25 at the age of 25. Can you name the 6 Cleveland hitters since the turn of the century in the last 25 years to hit 25 home runs in a season at the age of 25 or younger? He would be the 7th.
Okay, since 2000.
Yep.
Grady Sizemore?
1.
Travis Hafner was older when they acquired him, so it's not Travis Hafner.
Correct.
Victor Martinez?
No.
No, didn't do it? Okay. God, what? How old was Jose when he blossomed? So Jose?
That's 2.
Francisco Lindor.
That's 3.
Oh, goodness. I'm going to... God, even Ben Broussard hit 25?
No.
Yeah, I think he's older.
Not at that age.
No. Same with, like, Ryan Garco. I think he was older when he came up.
Broussard topped out at 21 at the age of 29.
I don't think Shin-Soo Choo
No.
hit that
He was kind of a
many.
late bloomer, too.
Yeah, there's a lot of those guys here.
Gargo topped out at 21. Chu never hit more than 24 in a season, and it was his last full season.
That power growth from his Drupal Cabrera came after he was 25, didn't it?
That he hit 25 home runs in his age 25 season.
Okay. Wow,
There's
okay.
4.
How many more do I need, you say?
2 more. One of them
more?
is still on the team.
Who have I... Who am I missing?
How about Carlos Santana?
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
And one more. This guy is still playing on the other side of the world.
Franmil?
Yep. Yeah, Santana hit 27 in his first full season. Thanks, Ryan Kalish. When it was his age 25 season. And Franmil hit 30 bombs in his age 25 season.
God.
That one's a little...
Makes me so sad to see his numbers.
Yeah, so he hit 30, age 25. Franmil also hit 37 in his first full season. What happened there? Anyway, Manzardo would be the 7th if he can do it.
Can you tell me who would actually be tied with Kyle Manzardo for .9 WAR since July 7th?
Schneemann.
It is Daniel Schneemann. Yeah. 294, 402, 471, 148 WRC plus. Good to see him rebound after. I mean, he was so good early, really leveled out and was awful for quite a while, and has returned to being a productive bat. Guy that went in there against righties for sure. How about number 4?
Bo Naylor.
You already mentioned his name. It's not Bo Naylor. He's number 5.
Brian Rocchio.
Brian Rocchio is at .6. He's at 295, 324, 453, 113 WRC plus. Imagine if he just started. This is what's crazy about this. You just start the year like this. What is the conversation surrounding Brian Rocchio?
Do you mean if he just did this the whole time, or if he
I
played
mean
like
if,
this for the first month and then struggled?
First 28 games of his season look like that. What would we be saying about him?
Yeah, you'd say that he the October Rocchio carried over, and that may be the last the struggles he would have if you flipped the sections of the season were flukier. I don't know.
Yeah.
Baseball's weird like that.
It would. We're all guilty of letting just this brief little stretch change how we feel about a player. None of us are immune. And then there are guys that have contributed 0.1 wins above replacement. I'm skipping over a few guys like Angel Martinez, Gabriel Arias, Austin Hedges, Stephen Kwan, David Fry, and C.J. Kayfus. C.J. Kayfus. How about the debut first 7 games of his major league career? Looks like a guy that should have been up here sooner. I know they would make the case that he was not prepared to be up here to do this until this very moment, so I can't argue against it because I can't peer into the universe where he came up a little bit sooner.
I've liked what I've seen. I want to see more.
Definitely looks like he belongs up here.
And
doesn't look overmatched against any lefties. Homers against a lefty. You could leave this guy in the lineup most days and you're happy with it.
So is he one of the most 5 important players the rest of the way?
You want to change your list?
It's
Does
our
he go
list,
above?
TJ. It's our list.
Well, your side of the list that I'm now going to compare against mine, and then we come together.
Guy can't win a war draft ever. Has to try to find any way he can to one-up me in competition.
No, I'm sticking by it. I'm gonna stay. It's Rocchio. Keep me locked in, Rocchio 5.
You have a lot to talk about. A lot. I'm glad. It looked like this was going to be a lean August and September, and we would be searching, digging for topics. Not now.
27.4. That's the Guardians' percentage chance to make the playoffs.
It seems low.